5 steps of creating a retirement corpus. Very, very important, simple and systematic. There is nothing rocket science difference. Please be systematic. Somebody called yesterday to Anil and says that I feel that COVID will continue. Can I put it in a bank? This is the same type we got it in the last March, okay? And two people. So the difference between, I can say, advisor and yourself is only the emotions. We try not to take the calls on emotions. And this is the one thing which I have been realizing. It's not that, of course, if you are very well versed and you have a passion to read and do it and you can do it yourself, that's the best thing. Otherwise, the advisor help only there. We are just trying to tell our people that this is the data driven. History repeats, the market repeats, everything have the data. So don't involve the emotions. And this is what I have learned when we, in 2001, we got our new car, which is new house, and we got the baby first time, came in that new car. And then I was not wanted to sell that car because it is so much emotionally attached to us. And then after, normally we sell after 3 or 4 years. And he said, okay, we will buy the another one. And I said, no, we will not buy, we'll keep it. And Anil said the same thing. He said, don't take any personal finance decision on emotions. If you keep it this, it will become like a kabaddi wala will also not will take. So it's like that. So mostly the difference between you and us. This is another example I have. One customer had an ESOPs. We gave the trigger. And that person says, no, Rachna, I think so. It will do up good and good. And I said, no, it is okay. I understand even if it is does good. But it's better to diversify the risk. And he got little carried away with that. And now it was, if I'm not wrong, it was $188 when we gave the trigger. And it went to $131. And then he came back to us, Rachna, can I sell now? It is not going up for last 2 years. And I told the same thing. I can understand. We can try to wait now for sometimes before we take the trigger. So sometimes don't involve your emotions. Be simple, systematic, and diversify asset allocation good. That is the way you create the corpus. I always says nobody is God. Everybody have their own ways. The difference between you and us is we are working 24/7 on those. So we will know a little bit more better. We have the connection with the fund managers. So we go, listen, talk to them, hear to them, because nobody drives the car from the rear mirror. You have to understand that. Everybody, if somebody asks how you do this investment, I go to the portal, I see the returns and the ranking. But it's really written very clearly. Whenever we have the rank, it is written on the past investments. And past investments are not equal to the future. Nobody try to understand that. The fund manager is like a driver of the car, and the driver of the car will never go with the rear mirror. I'm sure all of us who must be driving, and we never use. If I use rear mirror is only 2 times. So somebody is honking me so much, so I will see who is the person who is honking so much when there is so much of traffic. Or second time is when I am trying to take over. Otherwise, I will never ever use a rear mirror. Similarly, please, when you are doing investment or something, don't just look the past return. You have to understand what is a fundamental style of that fund manager, what fund manager's views is about the future. If it is matching yours, fair enough, and go ahead. So we should know what is a time and what if analysis, what is my plan B and plan C. So similarly, as I told you before this call, I had another customer call and he says, Rachna, if I'm doing this, my kids' education may be having. So I said, if this is the worst case scenario, we will make sure we will break these 3 things and we will not get impacted. But that is only 2% chances. 98% chances it may not happen. Please go ahead. So how much possible, try to have a what if analysis for creating the corpus time. Very important whenever we try to do the process, as I showed before, take care of mindsets are the biggest issues when we try to do some simple things, because I was going through another story of, I keep hearing those story from RJs and other places. So he was telling that mind has two horses, one is positive and one is negative. And which horse win the race? It's normally the person who has been well fed. So similarly, when what happens, well fed is in a mind is what are the news and belief we are being feeding. So if I'm being feeding only negative news, I'll feel more negative. If I'm feeling more positive, it's a positive. The mindset and behavior, it happened the same thing. When you hear so much about the positive or the market or something, that somebody says, no, Rachna, market will collapse, I better do it. So you have been hearing this so much, so you started believing and thinking that it may be negative. We have to realize you can see any data, it can be 30 years, 50 years of US or anything. Market is never given negative. But as long as you have stayed for a long term, and you have to make sure that you cannot invest on the equities when your goals are below 3 to 5 years, because market 5 years or 6 years may be negative. So we have to make sure that what are the things we need to work on, what are the different asset allocation and the I can say product you should use it. Make sure your long, small, short term and mid term is taken. Of course, retirement is a long term, so you should take a good equity exposure and do it across. Before the 3 years, 5 years, well, normally asset allocation, we keep changing debt and equity over the period. So when you are at taking a retirement, always try to do 100 minus your age is a debt part of it. Taking care of asset allocation, time, measure, and risk. This is another things I keep saying. Whenever you have a debt, try to see how we can have alternative income irrespective of anything coming, because equity will giving you good returns, and the other debt funds, it can be bond or a debt or as a PF and PPF and others, will be giving you a lower return but the fixed returns. That's what we have to take care. So as I told you, first part here is simple, systematic is discipline. Without fail 200 times, I believe that this is the one core part of my life. I have learned from my dads and seeing army person, being and brought up in army life, how we can achieve anything. And there's no other better way other than Warren Buffett writing. Successful investing take time, discipline and the patience. No matter how great the talent and effort, something just takes time. You can't produce a baby in 1 month by getting a 9 woman pregnant. This is the another thing. When I was in the Wipro and Infosys, my boss used to tell that when we used to make proposal for TNM and FP, time and money and fixed bid, is to say that you make sure that you don't put so much team member and say that, okay, we will deliver. It will take its own time. So please make sure when you are doing, have a discipline. It may have, I remember 1.5 years back, even the SIP for 3 years was negative, but those all are at 30s now. So please make sure that your discipline continue. And the second best quote, which I always say is someone sitting in the shade today because someone planted the tree long time back. This is no second thought about it. A lot of us, we never realize it. Today, news came, we stays in Banagatta Road, that today in a metro, they are going to cut 604 trees. And I was talking in the breakfast time to Anil, I got, which is next to our house only, that metro station is coming. 604 trees are going to cut. Then he says, no, because that's a mandatory now. If they are cutting 604, they need to plant 3 times of those. And you can start thinking about that. Even we plant those, these are 10 to 20 years old trees. How long those will take to give that much of oxygen and the level. So that's another things we always try to see how we can sow now, and then we will have a seed and fruit little later.
Today, Mr. Anil Rego is one of the most well-known financial advisors in the country.
Anil Rego, CEO and founder of Right Horizons.
And getting Anil Rego, founder and CEO of Right Horizons, who joins us right
From
now.
From a Bangalore studio, Anil Rego, CEO, founder, Right Horizons.